Hey guys, welcome to the review for the 228th chapter or shift as DezzieArts, formerly Jackal known also as Michelle, but DezzieArts just released yesterday. She entitled it, this being, like I say, the 228th edition of Metamorphosed Malleability, she entitled this shift / chapter as Hot Pursuit. And you're probably wondering why she did that. Why she would name it that, for this chapter, if you will. Well, it's quite simple, because a lot has been developing as of late. Now, one of the side plots of M to M, as she calls it for short, is basically, Brielle gets called upon by this, I guess you could say, this secret agency or something like that, that's trying to basically find out the truth about certain things, about certain individuals that were after Brielle and the powers that she had. And what's interesting about this is she basically lets her friend Ilana, Ilana, just call that, and her girlfriend Crystal in on what's going on. And here's what's interesting about this recent chapter. Ilana and even Crystal, to an extent, are very uneasy about the mission, the recent mission, or I guess you could say test or objective that Brielle is being asked to do. Because basically Ilana, more so than Crystal, feels that this agency ran by these people, by this Duncan guy and his female associates, is hiding something. Like there's something not truly right about it. Like, like a lot of you can kind of get the idea in the story that she maybe appreciates it trying to keep Brielle safe, but they're not. But even though she may appreciate that, she also feels like there's something that they're hiding. Like she's not, like Brielle is not getting the whole truth out of them. Like there's something more they're not telling Brielle. So basically she's telling Brielle, look, be careful about what you do here. Be careful about what you're about to do. And because basically this mission, or this recent inquiry that they want Brielle to do, that Duncan and his crew want her to do, is to envelop, basically disguise one of their own agents to go on a infiltrating kind of like mission for some intel. They want to get some intel, basically, that, leads back to the Dr. Z guy, we'll just call him that, who tried to get Brielle's powers for himself, but it ended up killing him. So they're trying to track down any trace of information they can to find out, okay, who is the one that leaked Dr. Z information about, ourselves, but also leaked him information about, the abilities that Brielle has. Who did that? They want to know what senior researcher let out, the information, basically spilled the beans when they weren't supposed to. It's like, who allowed access to Dr. Z, and others associated with him in the first place at the facility? That's what they want to know. That's what they want to get to the bottom of. So they're having Brielle go on all these different undercover missions, kind of stealth missions using her abilities. And this latest one is to cover up one of the agents to kind of help out. But what happens is when they go and have this meeting to get the information, one of the people they encounter, another female, is able to detect that, well, Brielle is among them. She's able to kind of figure out Brielle is there in disguise. And I have to go back and read the chapter, but I think she figured out that Brielle is covering and disguising one of the females from Duncan's side. So yeah, basically, you know, Brielle, I guess, is kind of found out, but not, you know, like, oh, I'm in trouble kind of deal. But what's interesting though is, you know, Brielle takes, you know, like the concern that her best friend and her girlfriend have about this whole situation to heart, right? She takes it to heart. So just out of curiosity, she leaves a piece of herself at the house, right? Along with a fiance, a little piece of herself. But suddenly something happens. Suddenly this little piece kind of disconnects with her. Kind of like, you know, it kind of disconnects, kind of shuts her off. And Briella's like, wait a minute, what the heck's going on? And what's ironic is this all happens the moment she meets this other woman who can help them out maybe with getting some information, because it sounds like this woman has similar abilities as Brielle. Not the same, but similar. You know, and it's ironic that something occurred at that time which caused the disconnect. So Brielle, basically after the mission is complete, or kind of complete, not a failure, but kind of semi-successful, silver lining kind of deal, Brielle decides to go home. Brielle decides to go home and everything to figure out, okay, you know, how did she know, basically to figure out, okay, how did the mission fail? How did this woman know I was there? You know, but also to figure out why there was a disconnect between her and her little friend. You know, basically her little piece of herself that she left behind. And when she gets home, she's pondering this still. Her fiance Crystal is there to greet her, and she's wondering, okay, you know, where's that little, you know, thing at? Where's that little bit of me at? And Crystal holds out her hand and it's like, oh, you mean this? She was right here. And then Brielle, she gets upset. She just goes full on gooey slime wave monster like in, you know, in anger, and being like, you know, do you, kind of looking at that little thing like, do you realize what you've done to me? Do you realize the heck you just put me through? Because what she does is when she goes on these kind of missions or goes into different areas and stuff, she leaves a piece of herself behind at her best friend's house or her fiance's home, just in case she needs to communicate with them on what's going on, as well as alert them to maybe call for help if she needs it. Well, because this little part of her decided to kind of close off any connection, Brielle's not too thrilled, so she's mad. And they end up chasing each other right into the cracks of the wall. Basically, they merge with the wall through the vent. Well, actually, they don't merge with the wall. They go through the vent because she's chasing after this little thing, and this little thing's just like laughing, kind of like giddy, kind of laughing about it and everything, like thinking it's funny. And Brielle's not happy, so Brielle's going after her because she's mad. Like, do you realize what you caused me? Do you realize what you've done, right? So anyway, she's chasing after this little part of her, and Crystal's like, sweetie, are you okay? Because she's hearing all this banging happening in between the walls of the house until it grows fainter. And that's when we get into this next chapter here, where basically we find out that the reason the sounds were growing fainter was because of the fact that Brielle had chased this little piece of herself outside. And just like her, this little piece of herself is able to shapeshift into whatever she needs. She's able to shapeshift into a wasp, into a fish. Brielle is trying her best to pursue it. Looks like she's going to get to it at times, but she can't. And ultimately, in the end, at the end of the story, this little piece of her escapes. But what's interesting about it is what is developed, you know, in the story. What is developed from a character and power perspective and everything for Bree. Because even though, like I said, Bree would usually leave a piece of herself behind to basically get, you know, kind of get the attention of her best friend or her girlfriend to let them know what's happening, you know, and stuff like that. Here, she's able to sense the fact that this little piece of herself not only has grown sentient, in other words, become its own individual, but because of the connection she has with it, because it's basically a part of her, it's basically herself, she senses, you know, something else, and that's an emotion of hatred, pure, raw hatred and disgust and despiseness for Brielle. But you're wondering why? Why is she hating on her? You know, when, you know, pretty much this little thing is her. You know, what's the deal? Why does this little thing of Brielle hate on her? We don't know. But what's interesting is when Brielle does try to capture it, it looks like she's about to, this little thing comes to the conclusion, wait a minute, I'm part of her, made from her, I can use her. And what does she start doing? By using her, she starts ciphering off bits of Brielle into her. That's right, she starts ciphering bits of Brielle into her to grow even bigger, to become a little bit more powerful. And Brielle basically notices this and has to basically let go and figure out, okay, this is not working, and that, like I said, allows this little piece of her that's grown sentient and independent on its own to get away. And then what she hears kind of when it's getting away and almost out of distance, basically out of like, okay, I can't communicate with her, I can still sense her, but not much. What she hears is laughter. But not like, you know, joyful laughter or anything, but basically laughter of very, very fiendish, very evil-like, if you will. So she basically decides at the end of the story to shapeshift into a drone, fly home, and contemplate, okay, how do I come up with a way to defeat myself? How do I figure out how to beat myself, you know, now that, you know, she pretty much has figured, okay, this little bit of myself not only has grown sentient, but now realizes that it can become just as powerful as me by by basically ciphering off and absorbing pieces of me into her. So yeah, she flies off to figure out and contemplate how she's going to do that, but also to allow her girlfriend Crystal not to be too worried about her whereabouts, and also probably to explain to her and her best friend, yeah, this is what happened, and I don't know how. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting how this 228th chapter / shift has turned out. I like it. I really do. I do like it. It definitely shows you what, you know, DezzieArts has done before. You see, DezzieArts is no stranger from, you know, going in a different direction with a concept like this. I mean, for example, when she did the Unlimited series, you know, yeah, you know, at first it started out as nothing more than fun and stuff for the main character Isaac, until later on his actions had consequences that nearly cost him his existence. When the two personas that he would sometimes become, or at least one of the personas he would become, and then a persona he became afterwards, became their own individual entities. And like I said, basically because of that, it nearly cost him his existence. So she's known to take what's kind of like a fun-loving, you know, all fun, erotic, NFSW kind of like story, and turn it on its head sometimes when need be to really get people's attention. And believe it or not, she has done that here with this story. I will give her that. I will give her that. And I can't wait to see what she's got planned for the 229th one. I mean, basically, ladies and gentlemen, we are essentially, when you really think about it, 20 weeks away from the 250th shift. We are 20 weeks away. That's right. You know, we got the 229th one coming out next Thursday or Friday, depending on the time frame. And we have the 230th one coming out around December. Well, not December, but September, I should say. Beginning of September, not December. What am I talking about? You know, around that time frame. So we have that. And then we got the rest of September, October, November, December. We're getting to that point. We are getting to that point. So we'll see exactly, you know, what she has in store for us, but I'm looking forward to it. You know, there are many people that might speculate to follow the story that maybe this is Dr. Z. Maybe somehow he found a way to infiltrate her blood system and was just biding his time and waiting his turn, waiting for his opportunity. We don't know. Maybe this little piece of her that's become sentient, maybe it's that alter ego she became, that, you know, secretary that she first introduced to us many shifts ago, who basically took on a life of her own and decided to get it on with one of the people that inspected her backyard for landscaping. It could be that, we don't know. But we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. But I do recommend checking it out, guys. And that's all I'm going to say. I got to get into work now. But let me know what your thoughts are down below. DezzieArts, keep up the good work. Can't wait for more. And until then, I am out, guys.